This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, a tablet, desperately seeking an Xbox, new games, and a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. And remember that current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% on almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So, probably one of the biggest tech topics of the last year, certainly probably the biggest tech legal topic of the last year has been the Apple Epic Games lawsuit. Lots of interesting things have happened there. If you haven't been following along with us, you may not know that there were 10 counts charged by Epic against Apple. Apple won in 9 of the 10. The 10th one was demand that Apple add the ability into their policies or technology or whatever the rules were to allow developers to include third-party payment options, or at least links to third-party payment options. They lost on that one, so Apple was forced to do it. They were given a deadline. The deadline has been coming up. Apple asked for an indefinite stay on the order, essentially asking that it not be enforced until all appeals have been exhausted. And the judge this week said, no, absolutely not. You could have asked for an extension, and I would have considered it. But yeah, no indefinite stay of this order. You asked for 10 additional days. You get 10 additional days, and that is it. So Apple has a couple of weeks to get this into place. They have said that they will appeal both the original ruling and the dismissal here, but that's a big move to have said, no, can we just pretend this doesn't exist until all of our appeals are completed in 3 or 4 years? That's a ballsy request, I think. What do you think, Abram?
Yeah, look, they're trying. Every day is money, right?
Right.
Every day they put it off as money, right?
True.
So that's what they're trying to do. Every day they put it off is more money in their pocket that they're trying to make. So yeah, of course they're gonna try to delay it as long as they possibly can.
But they could have asked for a longer extension. The judge basically said, if you had asked for a longer extension, we'd be having a different conversation right now. But you didn't. And so here we are. You get 10 days. End of conversation. That's interesting to me, because I would have said, give us 90 days. And the judge would have been like, okay, you can have an extra 90 days. But can we delay this 3 or 4 years until all of our appeals are complete? I didn't have any expectation that was going to go their way. Apparently they did. That seems silly to me.
It's not the death penalty, you know. It's like
True.
They seem to think that they can just they don't have to actually act on it until all the appeals are exhausted.
Right. Yeah. And the judge said that, so is this the quote? Yeah. So, in short, Apple's motion is based on a selective reading of this court's findings and ignores all of the findings which supported the injunction, namely incipient antitrust conduct, including super competitive commission rates resulting in extraordinarily high operating margins, and which have not been correlated to the value of its intellectual property. So they basically said, this would cause irreparable harm. And the judge said, no, I think you've caused irreparable harm.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Apple. I guess it's you're out of luck.
What I find most interesting about all of this, and something that a lot of people have pointed out, is the fact that this ruling will not affect Epic Games, who brought the case in the first place. Because one of the other requests of the court was to force Apple to allow Fortnite back into the store, and that one Epic lost on. So while Apple is being forced to allow third-party payment systems, Fortnite got kicked out of the store for a third-party payment system, but Apple was not forced to allow them back in.
Right.
So
So, right. So this is a Pyrrhic victory, right? They,
right.
I guess, somebody, if someone who's in the store, if someone is who's in the store tries to implement a third party payment system now, then I guess they can, but it
Yes.
doesn't mean they have to let somebody, doesn't mean they have to let them in.
Right. So that is a fascinating aspect of this. The company that brought the case in the first place, who theoretically won on this one count, will not be able to enjoy the fruits of that labor because they're still not allowed back into the store. Unfortunate.
Well, like a lot of court cases, it's more theoretical than helpful to that particular company. But they still, Epic still gets some appeals, right? And
Yes.
and
So
and there's still
every
the possibility,
every ruling here is temporary.
right? There's also the possibility we talked about the other day about Apple having to allow side loading, right? So
Right.
so that would also solve. Well, it's not as good a solution for Epic's problem, but it would solve Epic's problem a little bit,
Right.
right? Because the
But
best solution is to be in the Apple Store.
if you're side loading, you probably weren't going to be using Apple's payment system anyway.
Right. But I mean, the reason that Epic doesn't want to be in it, want to use a third party payment system, is they don't want to give Apple commission, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Certainly not
so the bottom
30%.
line is, yeah. So the bottom line is, if you don't want to give Apple commission, you now can use a third party payment system,
Mm-hmm.
or possibly in the future you may be able to have someone sideload your app, although sideloading is never going to be as popular
Right.
of a way to distribute an app as being in the main app store. And
Right.
being in a third party app store will never be as popular either. Like you need to be, the prime real estate is to be in Google Play for Android and to be in
Mm-hmm.
the App Store for Apple, because a
Right.
lot of people just aren't going to go that little extra mile of, depending on how, and we don't even know how hard it's going to be to enable side loading on iOS if it's ever allowed.
Right.
So, but people don't want to go that extra mile. In fact, this is just a little side note, but I don't know if you saw that the other day Mozilla Firefox was, like, there's some other Firefox. Firefox was allowed into the Microsoft Store, and they made a big deal about it. Mozilla made a big deal about it because they are, I think, the first third party browser that was allowed in the store, at least the first third party browser with a different rendering engine than Edge uses.
Okay.
So they made a big deal about this, and I got their press release, and they were really pitching it to us. And my thought was, who cares? You could download, you could have downloaded Firefox on your PC and installed it. But their press release said, and this I'll never forget, said something like, without going through the hassle of downloading and actually installing the app, you can just click something in the Microsoft Store. And I was thinking, like, how much of a hassle is it to just download and install software on a PC?
Uh, Weird.
So
I guess
if they
there's
think
no
that's a hassle,
I guess there's no UAC if you if you download it from the store.
I, if they think that, like, people would have to know to go to our website and download it, like,
Yeah, they'd have to know, how computers have worked since the beginning.
yeah, I mean, if you're that ignorant about technology, about computers, you probably won't be installing, you probably wouldn't know about Firefox, and you probably would want to install it.
Firefox in particular.
Right.
Because at least Chrome is a household name. You know what I mean?
Right.
Firefox is
Right.
not. Weird.
Right.
Speaking of sideloading, though, did you see Tim Cook had a quote this week? If you want to sideload apps, buy an Android phone.
Okay, I will.
That was a pretty blunt response to the laws that are currently on the books. I just thought that was a really funny, like, I'm all in. This is the way it works. I don't want to do it. You're not going to make me do it.
Right.
So sounds strangely Elon Musky to me, which is interesting because he's real like no. Okay. Yeah. Tim Cook has never like been that guy, you know. Steve Jobs was throwing the iPhone 4 at the designer because he didn't like the white. Yeah, Steve Jobs was the no kind of guy, but Tim Cook seems like a I'll let the other guys be hard-nosed for me. It's just an interesting, seemingly out of context or out of character, maybe, quote for him that I really liked. It was fun. Anyway, like I said, this trial is over, but this case is long from over. We will continue to follow it because, I don't know, we've enjoyed the topic, so I can't imagine that that's going to change. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.